There are a lot of discussion has taken place, and we've had some of those discussions here on the Wake Up Call about raising the minimum wage and, you know, what it does in terms of jobs, job growth, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of interesting was reading a report the other day that had to do with the city of Seattle, who just raised the minimum wage up there to about $15 an hour, and there were some folks that were really upset. Now, apparently, there's a report that states the minimum wage, that raised the minimum wage had stronger job growth. That's according to the Center for Economic and Policy Research. To talk a little bit about that this morning, workplace culture expert Dusty Staub joining us on the Wake Up Call. Dusty, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about this study. They say, oh, well, you know, if you raise the minimum wage, it is growing jobs. What do you say?
The study is still preliminary, but you have 13 states and 37 that haven't. The 13 states have raised it, and so you got an experiment going on. But the short-term data is showing those 13 states have more robust economic growth, better employment, and it actually has been a smart move. Now, give it another year, 18 months, and we will know for sure whether this actually does make it better or not. But right now, the evidence is indicating that raising the minimum wage is actually a good idea for businesses and local economies.
Okay, so let me ask a couple of questions here. When we talk about raising the minimum wage, like for instance, Oregon, you know, it's not a random number. You know, it's based on a couple of different things. What, you know, how much are these states? Because we're saying states, not cities. How much are they raising the minimum wage?
In some cases, it is by a couple of dollars, and in some cases, it's more than that. When you get to Seattle, they've raised it higher than just about anybody else.
Okay, but Seattle is not a state.
No. But so these states, when you're looking at them, when they're phasing this in, they're raising it anywhere from $1.50 all the way up to $4 above what the current minimum wage is. And if you think about it, Henry Ford back in 1914 did something even more radical. He more than doubled. He was paying his factory workers in 1914, and it actually helped his business grow. It built the economies. They could go out and buy his vehicles that they were making. Same thing with Howard Schultz and Starbucks in terms of providing benefits to part-timers, which is unheard of in his industry, yet he has half the turnover rate, which saves him tens of millions of dollars a year in employment costs, and look at what it's done for Starbucks. I think that when you increase the wage for the lowest paid people, they spend most of that, which goes right into the three-quarters of our economy, which is all consumer-based, and it drives the economics up. So it makes sense to me intuitively, but it is against the conventional wisdom. But as you know, conventional wisdom is very, very often wrong.
You know, when we talk about, like, for instance, Oregon, which is linked to inflation, you know, it may be 1.7%, it may be 2% in a given year. It's quite a bit different when you're raising the minimum wage, let's say 1 to 2%, maybe 3 or 4%, and you compare something like, you know, Seattle or the area around SeaTac, where essentially they double it. That's a little bit different.
It's radically different. I mean, if you think about what's happened since 2009, 2008, 2009, we've had a real freezing almost of wages. Mm-hmm. And so you have less people, middle class and below, have less and less spending power. They're spending less in the economy, which slows down the velocity of growth, which hurts ultimately businesses, which hits profits. So one of the things we've done by freezing wages, which you think you have to do, and by keeping the growth of wages really slow, is we also probably have slowed down the economy in some way. And, you know, money is an act of faith. It's not backed by anything other than belief and faith. And if belief and faith goes up, typically we as human beings feel more robust, we spend more, and our economy is driven by that. And when I don't have that faith, we typically go back into recessions and ultimately even to a depression. So I think that one of the other things to keep in mind is there's what economists call the concrete cost versus the opportunity cost. Concrete cost, what it costs me for wages, what it costs me for benefits, I can see it going out. The opportunity cost is what might I be losing in terms of higher engaged employees who can spend more, more robust economy, bringing more customers and clients in. So it's, I don't think anything's definitive yet, and I'd want more research and time. But we've got a great laboratory going on. We're going to find out a lot more over the next year.
You know, you mentioned, for instance, Starbucks. You also mentioned Ford and Henry Ford. My question here is, what happens when you require a business to raise the minimum wage, and they're at a point where really they're working at a very thin margin, and they really can't afford to raise it?
When that happens, then what's going to happen is they're going to be laying some employees off. They're going to be pulling back on growth. And that's the conventional wisdom saying that when that happens, we're going to be losing employment. It doesn't seem to be happening, but I would say that then that business owner has to figure out how to do their business differently or to do something else. Again, that's why I say there's nothing definitive in this, and we're going to need some more time. But my instincts are, yes, it's going to hurt some businesses, but it may help other businesses and more people and do more good than harm.
It'll be interesting to see how the experiment goes. We appreciate you talking to us this morning, Dusty, and you have a great rest of your day.
You too.
It is 6:47, News Radio 1120 KPNW.